What's up, dudes? Max here, back with an update to Killer Instinct along with the patch that recently dropped a couple days ago. This patch was one of the big things we were talking about in the previous Killer Instinct update video that was addressing things like combo breakers, potential damage, as well as quite a few balance adjustments for several characters, including a complete rework, once again, of how Kilgore's instinct meter works. Now, outside of character balance and all that other stuff was something that's been looming in the distance for quite a long time, and it's recent characters, as well as a potential leak that happened a little while ago of this Kilgore character. And yes, it's actually completely true because he's in the game right now. However, the character is not technically playable at the moment. Instead, is going to be making his release around early 2017 at the beginning of January. But Kilgore, as we can all tell, is pretty much Kilgore at first glance, but you can select him as a CPU and actually have the CPU fight him so we can get an idea of what the hell this character does, and it looks pretty similar to what we saw in previous seasons with Omen and Shadow Jago. Those characters do take a lot of animations and similarities to other characters in Killer Instinct like Saberwolf and Jago, but they play dramatically different. They share a few normals, but their overall playstyle is something that's very much altered from what their original character designs are, and that seems to also be heavily resembling in what's happening with Kilgore and Kilgore. This character is kind of like a hybrid, sort of early version of Kilgore, like the prototype test versions that Ultratech had before the final models were available. There's even some documentation inside of the Shadow Lords mode that goes into more information about what Kilgore is, explaining that the modern-day Kilgore Mark III utilizes patented plasma blade claws to seamlessly maneuver between close quarters and ranged combat. The earlier designs featured chain gun arms that were equipped with high-caliber artillery, while being extremely effective as killing machines. The combustible engine proved to be particularly unstable when compared to units equipped with more efficient fusion reactors, and they said that several hundred of these units were produced before the design was eventually scrapped for the more practical Kilgore Mark I, and you can definitely tell with this character and its gameplay. Going into the move list, you get a good idea of what the hell's going on with Kilgore, and it's mostly the fact that he is a ranged character. There are some similarities when it comes to some special moves, but they do act completely different when you actually see them executed, with things like the Cyber Dash, General Fireballs, and an Uppercut. Kilgore does have that stuff, but everything sets up for juggles, and he kind of uses the chain gun in every regard. There's also a cooldown meter or a spin state that's also kind of similar to Kilgore, but since this guy doesn't have a reactor of any kind, he's pretty much built off gasoline engines. The character does get overheated and goes into a state where his projectiles don't actually go the bigger distance that he starts off with, instead has closer, more short-range projectiles that kind of blow up in front of him, but light the opponent on fire. We see this several times during the CPU gameplay demonstrations, and it actually causes a bunch of potential damage, but he does seem to have an ender that allows him to cool down. There's also a teleport, which is technically a busted teleport. He seems to teleport just in place, and if he's overheated, I believe that teleport also acts differently. So some moves or special moves are altered when Kilgore is overheating instead of his non-overheated state. There's a lot of pretty interesting stuff with this character, and during the combos and everything you can kind of see when the CPU is going at it, it looks a lot different than Kilgore, except the look. He does have that really combustible engine look, which I think is actually very charming in some way. He looks to be like the Dan of Killer Instinct in some fashion, but at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of his overall head shape. Just the single eye doesn't make him look very threatening. It makes him look somewhat more comical than any of the other characters in the game, which I think is actually what they are going for, because he does act all busted and broken, like he's like a model that's coming back to life that should have been deactivated. There is some other stuff that has popped up though, because the character does make an appearance in the Shadow Lords mode, and you can actually play as Kilgore right now technically if you do adopt the character in Shadow Lords. Apparently there's a side mission that some players have actually been able to access that allows you to get the character on your team, and you can use them like a regular Shadow Lords character, but otherwise if you don't want to go through Shadow Lords, you can actually fight against him right now. Other than that, I think Kilgore actually looks pretty cool. I do wish he was a little bit more threatening, and there has been some images that did show up on NeoGAF of the character wearing accessories. So there is going to be accessories for Kilgore outside of just his standard model, which does change the way his head looks and his overall face, which is what I'm kind of happy with that. I do want to change the way his head looks. I kind of wish I can put a classic Kilgore mask on him in some way. But outside of all of this, what does this mean going forward for Season 4 of Killer Instinct? There has not been a confirmation yet of Season 4, simply we know that there are new costumes coming out. We got the Nez Pierce Thunder costume that has been recently updated for free in the game. Kilgore is going to be happening pretty soon, a spin-off character of Kilgore in the vein of what Shadow Jago does to Jago, as well as Omen to Saberwolf and many other characters. So there is stuff happening. We also see that there's 2 brand new character slots on the menu, showing a total of 3 characters that are going to get added over the next eventual time frame. We don't have any idea when this stuff is going to be happening. There wasn't a trailer for Kilgore, which is why I'm talking about all this stuff in general. I've been very out of the loop with anything Killer Instinct beyond Season 3. So a lot of this stuff is pretty much just as new to me as it is to you guys, as I haven't done any official work for Killer Instinct in the past 6 months. So what the heck is going on with its future? Like we did say, I was hoping that Killer Instinct was going to get remade into a brand new game, like a new KI somewhere in the horizon. While we do get eventual updates to this version of Killer Instinct, the guys at Microsoft have said or expressed interest in doing Shadow-style characters, talking about Shadow Orchid or Shadow Saberwolf, similar to Shadow Jago. But I think that's what we're seeing right now, because that's essentially what Kilgore is. He's a Shadow-style character that is very similar to the original character in design, but not really in gameplay. He does a lot of different things. So I'm thinking that there is another chance that these 2 characters could absolutely be that. Because, as we said before, pretty much every character in the Killer Instinct universe has become officially a part of the new and rebooted KI at this point, leading me to think that the final 2 characters that we're going to see over whatever time span this next season is going to be are going to be very similar to Kilgore, kind of nodding at maybe previous characters, which I'm completely happy with. This means that there is a chance that something is being developed in the background, but like I said, we don't have concrete information whether or not a Season 4 for KI is indeed happening yet. But hopefully, with the Killer Instinct World Cup happening early next year, we might get that information, as well as potentially next big balance adjustments and updates. But I don't know, there's been a lot of updating to KI over the past month or so, so I'm very curious what direction they're going to be going, and I do hope they let us know very soon. As always, guys, thank you a ton for watching. There might be a chance that in the near future there could possibly not be as many Killer Instinct update videos, simply because if there is something coming down the line, they might need trailer work for it, and all of a sudden I'm involved and then I know everything and I can't report to you guys the stuff that I already know. So if that is the case, there wouldn't be any more updates, instead complete week ofs and breakdowns of characters that eventually do come out, which I hope you'll be just as satisfied with, but we'll see what happens in the near future. As always, guys, thank you a ton for watching. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.